Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Philly.NET Code. This is 30th, I think, code camp. And first virtual. I would like to, before beginning, I would like to thank the organizers, Bill, and everybody who's behind this, working hard to get everybody together. I really appreciate all that hard work. My name is Srinivasa Avanigadda. I'm a senior engineer at Effective. I mostly do Azure architecture. Effective is one of the Comcast company. It's in Chesterbrook, PA. We mostly deal with the ad advertising, placing ads on the Comcast TV. Like if you see any ads on the TV, it's our company that's behind that. So today, I would like to talk about some Azure cloud optimizations, like what we are doing, my experience, our experience, what we are doing in the organization, and let's save some money for you. Okay, what is cloud optimization? The cloud optimization is like ensuring money is well spent, like you're making sure like you're getting full benefit for what you're spending. So cloud optimization is one of the main pillar. Like if you there is a well-architected framework in Azure, which is I really highly encourage to go check it out. Well-architected framework, like it talks about how to set up, define the architecture, build your architecture, cloud architecture. Cloud optimization is one of the main pillar in it. So before diving in, every company has two types of costs, CapEx and OpEx. Cloud optimization, the cloud costs come under OpEx, which means it directly impacts the revenue of the company. So whether your organization wants to build new applications on Azure, or if you're looking to move your entire data center into the cloud, estimating cost is a key factor. You're plan your process to ensure you deliver more your project successfully within your cost. So I want to draw a little analogy with Jim. Say you have a fitness center. You have like there is a super duper fitness center. There are 3 tiers in there, like a basic, standard, premium. Like basic, you have access to weight room and cardio machines. Like standard has more, like cardio. All that has basic and spin classes and personal trainer. And premium, say you get spa, tanning, and massage as well. So if you're somebody like me, I go to gym usually weights and cardios. Like there's no point in paying for a premium if I'm using only the weights or the cardio machine. Like same with the other premium, other tiers. Like if you use only spin classes, there is no point in paying the premium tier. Like like doing so, like you'll get what you're paying for. I mean, you'll make maximum use of what you're paying for. So the same concept, the same analogy can be brought into the cloud. Like you always plan to pay for what you need. Like in this case, like if you someday, like if you're in the basic tier, you want to use the spin classes, you can still do it. Like you can pay per the class like on the day and go back to your basic. In cloud, you can do the same. Like you can scale up your instances, scale up your capacity of your machines whenever you want, and bring it down. So this same concept can be applied in the cloud optimization. Like we'll see how we can do that. So the effective ways for cloud optimization, like some effective ways, like budgets and alerting, shut down unused resources, right size underused resources, Azure hybrid benefit, auto scaling, choosing the right compute services for your needs, reserved instances. I'll go one by one and talk more about each of these techniques. So budgets and alerts. Like in Azure lets you to set up budgets on your subscriptions. Like you can look at your spending patterns for the last 6 months, maybe a 1 year spending patterns. Like if you look at the spending patterns, you'll get an idea of like how much you're spending on each resource, like how much you're spending on like per month across the department or your organization. So set the budget limits. Once you get a number, like a threshold number, you can set a budget alerts in the Azure. Like say if your last 6 months spending is like around 5,000, you can set an alert at 5,000 and send an email to your team, like not team, like a cloud admin, cloud architect, like when you're closing near to the budget, like when you reach 50%, 70%, whatever alerts you them. That way you will have a good handle on what you're spending on the cost, like what your cost is going to be. And you can also use the same cost analysis in Azure to see what your spending going to be for the next for the entire month. So if that way you will get a good understanding what your monthly costs, how much you want to spend. If you want to cut down costs, like you can go back and scale down or look at your machines. Track your cloud spending using the budgets and the alerts, the cost reviews, like constantly do some cost reviews, like a monthly or quarterly. Meet with your organization leads, like do some cost reviews that will help you reduce the costs. Respond to the cost alerts, like if you have a cost alert, like if you're way over the budget, like if you're like middle of the month and you're almost reaching your budget, like there might be some anomalies, like somebody might be dumping a lot of data into the log analytics or something might be happening. So respond to your cost alerts, like look what's going on. Like it keeps your costs under check if you put some alerts in the budgeting there. Budget alerts, I mean. Moving on, shut down unused resources. Like there might be a lot of unused resources, like go into your subscriptions, look for the resources that are not being used. There might be like somebody in the team might have done a POC and left the resources, like look for the resources that are not in use. Or like another example is like when you spin up a virtual machine and delete a virtual machine, there is always a chance you left behind the disk that you attached to the virtual machine. So go in, like look for all the resources, what is not used, what is not in use, and delete them or shut it down. That would be a huge cost benefit. Right size, always know your workloads, like performance requirements, like always start small. If you thinking of building a new application, always try to start small, like build an MVP application. Then like principles, like do the principles like build, measure, learn. Like build, measure, learn is like build a very MVP application, minimum viable product, build it, deploy it, try it, measure it, like what we are lagging, like if you need more power, like what you need. So measure based on your what you got from it, like learn and scale it up, scale your resources, like improve that way. Instead of going into full-blown like application, like try to start small and scale as you go. Going further, Azure Advisory. Azure Advisory comes with every subscription. It's free. You can look into Azure Advisory for advisors, like what you can improve, how you can improve the costs or different things in your subscription. In the recent, like last year during the Microsoft Ignite, they introduced advisory score. What it does is like it gives you a score across different things in your subscription, like your posture, like your subscription posture, like costing, security posture, or different aspects. So there is a cost advisory score there. If you look at this is a sample advisory for me. So if you look at it, there is an advisory is telling me to reserve an instance for my virtual machine, which would save me like $80 per year, and improve my advisory score for cost by 55%, which is huge. So even if you have a machines or something that is not running in their ideal, advisory does tell you, okay, this machine is not running and you're paying for it. Like it tells you all, it keeps all, checks all the resources and tells you like which resources are not in use, or you have a very high capacity machine. Say you have like 16 gig CPU machine, virtual machine, and you're not using, like you're hardly using 2% of it. Advisory will give you that input as well, like so you can go in and scale your machine down, or there are some quick fixes in the advisory. You can do the fixes right from the advisory. Some you have to manually go in and do it. So do check advisory. It's very powerful and very useful. Hybrid benefits. Hybrid benefits are like you can bring your licensing to the cloud. That would save a lot of money when you bring your existing licenses. Like if you could have some enterprise licenses, SQL Server licenses, database, Windows Server licenses. Like using that licenses, bringing those licenses into cloud would potentially like save you a lot of money. For example, if you have a SQL Server Enterprise Edition, the ideal cost, like for a pay-as-you-go cost, is like around $4 per hour. If you bring your licenses into Azure, it would be like 85% savings. Like you would be paying half a cent per hour, which is a lot of money there. Going forward, like with the Windows Server, like if you have a Windows Server licenses, try it could potentially save up to 50% of your cost. Like for a virtual machine, Windows Server machine, like you would be paying like $4,000. If you bring your licenses into the cloud, it's like 50%. You would be paying around $2,000. You could also bring Linux different subscriptions. That would also help you with the costs in Azure. And one more thing, Windows machines are expensive on AWS. They're 5x times expensive on AWS. Like if you have a Windows licenses, it's always beneficial if you bring those licenses into Azure. So some auto scaling. So moving along, auto scaling is scaling your resources as you need instead of spinning up a high-end machine and not using it, using all of its capacity. So if you see an example here, like always choose smaller, like start with a small instance and build as you go. So if you see this example, the red boxes, if you see the red boxes, the yellow is the usage and the orange is the wastage. For example, say I have a four cores assigned to a machine. So I'll be paying for like $584 for 4-core, for users like up until 600 users. So if I'm doing a auto square, say for 1 to 50 users, I'll be paying $146. So as you grow, you can increase your capacity. The orange, whatever is in the orange, is wastage, that you're wasting that resource. You're paying for it, but you're not using it. So as you go, as your users grow, like the savings increases further. Like if you reserve like 8 CPU, and as like when the users are not, you won't be using full capacity of it until your user reaches like 1100. You're still wasting some bandwidth here. Yes, you're paying for the resources and you're not using it. So always try to auto-scale your resources instead of paying upfront, like spinning up a high-end machine and working from there. So run cost optimization methods. Like don't look at the dollar pound signs. Like I got this picture from Microsoft. It's in pounds, not dollars. So for example, see a machine that you have a virtual machine resource high-end, like a 16 gig machine. So everything in the blue lines is what you're using. So the blue box here, it's all the wastage. You're paying for the money, you're paying for it, but you're never using. And even if you can snooze your machines, like say during 12 a.m. to 5 a.m., nobody is using your resources. At that time, you can snooze your machine. That would save a lot of money. So you can do it automatically. Like if you're doing a virtual machines, you can shut down and restart machines like automatically using automation, Azure automation, or different other. There is already, I think, something built into the virtual machines as well. You can use it to automatically shut down when you're not using your systems, and bring them up when it's required. So if you look at this, like you will be saving a lot of money if you're like optimizing your usage. So choose the right Azure compute services. So this is on the Microsoft website. So always choose services that is appropriate for your needs. So if you're building a new and you want a full control of what you're building, go build or start use virtual machines. Like if you need a high performance compute workloads, use the Azure batch. Like if you need a Microsoft microservices architecture, yes. If you microservices architecture, if you want event driven, go for Azure functions. Like if you, and on the other side, if you're doing a lift and shift, if you're doing a lift and shift, and if you want to be containerized, like go for the containers, like AKS or the app service containers. Or if you're lift and shifting, you don't want to containerize, you can bring them into virtual machines. Always try to choose the right resources for your needs. And going forward, reserved instances. Azure has reserved instances. Like what is reserved instances is like you can save a lot of money on if you reserve some instances. Like you can save up to 72% if you reserve instances for like a year or 3 years. There are different resources that you can buy the reserved instances, like virtual machines. You can buy reserved instances for virtual machines, storage, SQL Server, Cosmos DB, SQL Server, Synapses for analytics, Databricks, MySQL Server, Postgres, and there are a few more resources that you can reserve the instances. Like if you know what you're going to use, like how your utilization would be, how the capacity would be, you can always reserve the instances, which would save you like 72% of the cost, like over 3 years or 2 years. So some additional optimization techniques, like capture the requirements. Like before you start any cloud project, take time to plan appropriately. Start by identifying the stakeholders, technical teams involved in the project, all teams. Talk to them, like get the business workflow requirements, compliance requirements, security, availability, what kind of availability you want. Like if you're building a DR, plan, like capture requirements. Based on the requirements, you can build your resources. And when you capture all the requirements at one point, like you have all the information from which like you can start building your resources. And estimating cost, Azure has a price calculator. Make use of price calculator. Like when you have when you know what you're building, like what your requirements are, go to the Azure price calculator, see what it's going to cost, play with the different settings, different tiers. Virtual machines have different tiers. Like most of the resources, every resource has a lot of tiers. Like play with the different resources. Like look at different sizes. What makes what's useful for what makes sense for your requirements. Like plan accordingly. Share with your team, and estimate cost. Like there are when estimating cost, like for subscription, there are 2 types of paying methods. Like one is pay as you go. It's like you'll pay to all the resources, whatever you use. And there is also enterprise agreements. Like you can hugely benefit from enterprise agreements. Enterprise agreements is like you make an agreement with Microsoft or any cloud provider to a commitment, like you'll be using this much or bringing this much workload, and if you're already a Microsoft shop, like using Outlook 365, you would, you can get a lot of discounts on enterprise agreements with the cloud providers. Quick further, organize resources. Like in your resources, organize your resources based on resource group or tags. Like you can tags based on the application or the department, and like that helps you. Like when you're looking at the cloud cost analysis, you can organize your resources by tags or by the resource group. Then you know what team, what project is spending, how much they're spending, like what they, if they are within the cost, the budget limits. And another technique is implement policies. So this is very powerful. Like you can implement policies across all the subscription in your department or the company. Like policies are restricting users from spinning up certain types of resources. Like for example, virtual machines have a different tiers. Like some virtual machines, like high-end virtual machines, they cost like $1,000-$2,000 bucks a month. So if you don't want those accidentally spin up that kind of resources, like you can enforce policies into your subscription. Not only virtual machines, you can use the same policies for tagging. You can put a policy for if some team is spinning up resources, you can put a policy so that the tags are implemented, and that helps you when you're looking at the cost. You can segregate cost by the tags. One more important point with the implementing the policies is you can also restrict users from spinning up resources in different regions. Like the costs might change based on the regions. Like the same resource might cost less in a different region. Like if you're okay with it, like if the test environment, if you're okay, like you can also use that benefit. You can spin up your machines in machines or the resources in a different environment that might cost less. Like you can explore it on the Azure calculator, like price calculator, to see how much it costs in different regions. And going forward, like pay only for consumption. Azure provides a lot of consumption tiers for different resources. Consumption tier is you pay only for what you use. Like for the CPU capacity or the number of calls you make, you only pay when you use it. For example, you have a consumption tier for function apps, Cosmos DB, API management. If you're using API management, it has a consumption tier. What it does is like you're paying only what you need. You're not paying for unused like capacity or anything. Spot instances. Spot instances are the machines, Azure machines, or the resources that are not used by Azure at some, regularly. So you can buy those spot instances, which means like you get those resources from Azure. You run your workloads on it. Azure might take them back when they need it and bring them back, give it back to you. So, for example, like if you are running something a batch process, it can be interrupted. It doesn't matter like if it's stopped, and you can stop the process and start again. So spot instances, if you're doing a spot instances, like it saves a lot of money on the spot instances. And use managed services when possible. Like Azure provides a lot of managed instances. For example, SQL Server managed instances and others. So what it gives benefit is like it takes the management out of the equation. Like Microsoft Azure does all the maintenance for you, patching on everything, which saves you money in the maintenance. Cost optimization for VM disk storage. So there is a premium disk and a standard disks when you're for the resources. Like if you don't need, like if you're using a disk space to store some backups or anything, you don't need to use a premium disk for that. Like if you can do a standard SSD drive, you can store your data, backup data in there. So premium versus the standard disk, there's a lot of cost benefit there. Optimizing Azure SQL databases. Azure has a managed SQL databases. You can get database in two ways: DTUs, data transfer units, or you can get by the cores, CPU cores. So DTUs, like if you're going by DTUs, it costs, like you can start an SQL server way less. Like you can start using SQL server for around like $5. Like if you're working on a low, small application, like if you're doing a POC, say a POC, or if you're working on a small application, you can go with the DTUs. Like it costs way less than the regular vCore SQL servers. Look at your requirements. Like if your requirements, like if you can go with the DTUs on Cosmos DB or SQL Server, you can save potentially a lot using DTUs. Dev test environments. Azure provides you dev test environments. Like if you're using environment, it's a non-production environment. It's for development or testing. You can get some resources, like I think up to 15 virtual machines, like some of the resources for free in those environments. Make use of those environments for the dev and test. Optimizing blob storages. It's another factor in the cost optimization. If you have a storage account, there are different tiers: hot, cold, and archive tiers. Like allocate your resources based on your requirements. Like if you want frequent access to that blob, whatever you're storing, like you can go with the standard tier. Like if you say you're storing some backups, you probably never need the backup and you want to keep it there if you need it, you can always move your backups into archive tier or the cold tier. The archive tier, cold tier, what's the difference is like cold tier, the retrieval costs are a little higher than the standard tier, but the storage costs are way less. Same with the archive tier. Like with the cold tier, you can get the data back in 1 hour or 2 hours. With the archive tier, it takes much longer, and it's way cheaper. Like you can store the data that you probably might not never need. You can put those data in archive tier. If you want to retrieve it for some reason, you can do it, but it takes some time. But you'll save like a lot of cost, like on storing data in the archive tier or the cold tier. Yeah, I think that's all I got. There are different other mechanisms to save costs. Like I would highly encourage you to go check a well-architected framework. That's the 5 pillars. Cost optimization, one of the pillar, and there is also a Microsoft Documents training path for cost optimization. It's highly useful if you are looking to save some costs for your cloud spending. Yeah, that's all I got.